How to spot fake music contracts. With my law office, I've been doing this now almost 10 years, and I get messages on Instagram, I get emails and all kinds of things coming in, and people are like, look, I got contacted by Universal Music, for example, Sony, for example. And so, they go, wow, like it's so cool. I got contacted by these big names that I recognize. And they send me a contract. And sometimes the person has already signed the contract and they go, there was something weird about it. Or they tell me that they haven't signed it yet. You know what? Their spidey sense is going up. So I've just seen these so many times. I'm pretty good at like spotting the things that are the tells. So I'm going to share with you, because if you found this video, you probably have a situation, and I'm hoping that this is going to help. So if this is the video that you were looking for, give us a big like right now. Okay, so what I'm going to start with is, of course, the significance of having like a genuine contract is that it sets forth the relationship of the parties, right? It binds people to obligations, and it's important that we all know what we're doing and how long we're committed to the thing and all of that. And so that's why we take the time and invest the money and the headache and all the things to get a proper contract into place, because it ends up protecting everyone. Setting that aside, that's why we want to do it. Let's then go into the red flags. Let's start with kind of like the email and the message tells. So we're not even talking about the actual contract yet, but just in the way that people communicate when they are trying to get you to sign a fake contract. So one of the things will be, for example, in the title of the email. If the title of the email is like contract offered, opportunity just for you, and it's just something that's kind of like, if Universal was really reaching out to you for the first time, it would be pretty casual. I'll admit that. And it's usually just an A&R guy. And he's like, hey, John, I saw, this particular video, or I heard your song, and they give you at least something that's a little more personalized. So the title is somewhere I'm always going to start. And I'm like, if the first email says contract offered, what? Why? That's my question. Why? Moving on. 2, the first contact is also out of nowhere. Okay, it's all right to get DMs from, again, A&R people. It is normal. It is normal to get an email. But when the first email is, here's your offer of a deal, and they give you like bullet points, that's very uncommon. That doesn't make sense, because when someone is offering you a deal, there's an exchange happening, right? So they are going to give you something in return for getting something. And so someone's reasonably not going to make you an offer until they know a little bit more about you. Even if you are someone, let's say, maybe you're an independent artist, you have some, buzz and hype and following and all the things. But especially if you're not that, if you don't have the fan following just yet, and you're kind of just trying to get going, that's even more suspicious that someone would just offer you a contract out of nowhere. All right. Number 3, if the email address says Universal Records 321249 at gmail.com, please pay attention to that. It's really important that you pay attention to like who is emailing you. Just because it says Universal Records at some point, or Alamo Records at some point in the title of the email, doesn't mean it's actually from them. And obviously it's really suspect city if it's at Gmail. It's not really, so it should usually end, if it's Universal, it's umg.com. So those are also red flags. Number 4, the language will look like this. And I'm not saying that this was a literal copy and paste from a scammer trying to get someone who contacted me, but this is generally what it said. Having gone through your Instagram page, we wish to express our satisfaction and interest in your music. We'd love to learn more about the information of your music. Kindly send your information to, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not how like a real human interacts. And what I mean by that is just someone who's genuinely interested in you. I mean, I like teach people this. I go, if you're reaching out to someone, like put a little, personality, personal something in there. Again, John, your song Way Above was fantastic. So anyway, a little bit of a red flag there. Number 5, if you're like, all right, I'm not sure, maybe it is an offer. And so you respond, that's cool. And you go, hey, that's, sure. How do I move forward? What do I do? And their response after that is, here's the contract to sign. This is non-negotiable. I'm telling you, that's not how this works, okay? Everything is negotiated, and typically a label, they do send deal points once we get to that point. They usually are gonna contact you, discuss things with you, have phone calls, and then they might put an offer into place, cool, and they'll send you some bullet points in an email. And then once we're like, okay, we know the material terms, the main things that are important in this contract, we'll move forward. And then they send you the contract to look. And I'm telling you, the real labels are like pushing you to get an attorney. And some of the bigger labels will even say, I will not move forward with you until you get an attorney, because they don't want to mess around with this stuff. So again, back to the whole, hey, like before even talking about anything, here's a contract, you have to sign it, you can't negotiate it unless, you want us to go away forever and take all the opportunity. Okay, so that all has to do with just red flags in regards to the communications when someone's reaching out. Now let's get to the actual contract. So with the actual contract, look, I'm not saying that every contract needs to be super bougie and like properly, 12-point Roman numeral font and all this stuff. That is normally how we do it. So if you do see a contract and there's these giant spaces here and there and the font size is like 18-point font and it just looks a little unprofessional, again, a red flag. Again, you're being asked to sign. If they send it to you and they go, you have to sign, there's no negotiation, we're not changing the terms, red flag. They ask you to pay money up front at any point in this, huge red flag. And this goes with managers as well. If it's a manager, if it's a label, if it's anyone reaching out to you with some amazing opportunity and they go, but you only get this if you pay me money. It's one thing if someone's like, hey, you only get this like for my time, if I'm going to work with you, like, and teach you stuff, and it's like a service provider, fine. But when it's a traditional label or a manager or an agent, like if all it takes to get them is that you pay them some money, then yikes, probably a red flag. Also, another red flag is unrealistic promises. So they go, hey, John, we really like John in this in this video. Give a thumb up for John if you're enjoying this. John, we're gonna do and give you an artist development budget of $300,000 at our discretion and all of that. And in fact, this doesn't appear in real contracts, okay, in real like record label offers. But the reason I'm mentioning it here is because if they're making unrealistic promises, it's still a red flag. It's a red flag of like whether it's a scam artist or someone who's really a label, really making you an offer, but they really are kind of scamming you as well. Really what that means to me is that they're not offering you anything. They go, we reserve the right to maybe spend some money on you. And they just put that number in it because you see it. And our little lizard brains are like, oh my gosh, 300, I'm like gonna be a star. But anyway, it's still a red flag. When we see vague and ambiguous language, we don't know what the hell it means. Again, that's gonna happen in your real record label contracts as well. Please get an attorney. And then the unexplained urgency to get the contract signed. So when someone reaches out and like by the second email, they're like, you have to sign this, you have 48 hours, the thing is going away. And they create that urgency as a sales tactic, right? So they are doing that to get you to sign the thing. And it's probably because they're going to lock you in and then they're going to switch it on you. And they're going to be like, you're locked in now and you have to, pay us to get out. Or I've just seen all kinds of things happen. So that's some of the pain points and red flags with the actual contract. Now, what are the solutions? So number one, please research the party that reached out to you. So just little things like maybe it's a label name that you haven't heard of. Just do things like go and see if they have a website. But also here's the thing that I do as an attorney. When they tell me, for example, they're like, oh, we're a company registered in the state of California. I'll do a search with the Secretary of State. It's usually the same thing for every state. Secretary of State, and you can search a business name and just see if you can find them. Are they a real legitimate business? That's a good place to start. If not, red flag. You can also ask them to call you. I've done this with some people. And what was the last one? I was speaking. Oh, that's right. It was someone with my law firm. So someone wanted to retain my law firm. And so we have these scammers who are like, oh, we need to get an attorney and we have these big deals and we need your trust accounts. And so they try to run money through our trust accounts because we do that for clients, right? For settlement payments and things like that. So anyway, this prospective client who was representing to be a company of which was a real company. So we looked it up, confirmed, we got names. And so I still had, my spidey sense was going off. I'm like, that just seems weird. And so I told this guy to get him on a phone call because I knew who the guy was and what he looked like and what he sounded like. This was not the guy. So I'm just saying you need to do some due diligence, particularly before you sign a contract, before you pay money, before you do anything. And then the other solution is please do not send money under any circumstances. All right. So that's the other ouch that people run into is that they go and they send some money and then most of the time they can't get it back. And so, you are likely to get scammed by people who are like, just pay me $500 and all your dreams will come true. So please don't send any money under any circumstances until you know exactly what it is and you've got an attorney to consult and you know what I'm saying? It's all up and up. But in most cases, you're not going to send money. And then, of course, the solution is get an attorney, okay? And what I tell people is that, I'll try to look at something really quick and not, charge them for the time. But if they do think that it's legit and they want to move forward, I'll still review it and I'll go through and I'll be the one that contacts the other side. I'm the one that gets the information. So just have someone to advocate for you, please. In conclusion, don't be an eager beaver. Don't sign contracts without getting an attorney. Don't send money. Don't believe people who have messaged you one time or sent you one email. Pay attention to, the email addresses and all the things that we talked about. And you're going to do this because my whole philosophy is that you need to learn to think like a record label. If you were a legitimate record label and some other label was reaching out to you and they're like, hey, you have to sign this thing. Like, okay, why? Prove why. Tell me why. Help me understand. So be in that mindset of more prosperity than desperation, because it's really out of desperation that we sign things and do stuff and move a little bit too quickly. And that is what people are taking advantage of. We'll see you on the next one. I'm top music attorney, Miss Krystle.